You're listening to the Grind Line Podcast.
What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grind Line Podcast. I am your host, Greg. You're listening to episode 305. I just cut Tyler off mid-sentence to hit record because he was talking for too long. So that's the giggle thing that happened before the episode hits record. The Red Wings are fully into the Todd McLellan era. There have been some wins. There have been some battles. There has been a good game against Columbus so far. We're in the second intermission of the Columbus game, but how you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good. Just giving Tyler some hell for not buying a new camera, but other than that, it's good.
Tyler is coming to us from like 1997. How are you doing, Tyler?
I'm doing great. I can't complain too much. Team USA is dominating the World Junior Championship right now, which is beautiful. Canada's struggling with the Czechia right now. So
They currently losing.
Beautiful to see that USA hockey has come a long way over the years, and we're starting to really break down that door and get closer and closer to Canada. I'm not saying we're there yet, but we're getting there.
You mean Axel Sandin Pellikka is owning the World Junior Championships?
That too. He's been phenomenal for Sweden.
I'm pretty sure last I saw was he the leading point getter right now in the World Juniors. He's just,
I believe
the
he
kid
did.
is a stud.
No, he's looked fantastic. It's been beautiful.
It's insane. He Cronwalled someone today.
Did he? I missed that. I saw someone commented he had a huge hit, but I didn't catch
Huge
it.
he
hit.
buried
A
somebody.
huge hit.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cannonball right into the corner.
You know what's been great to this point, though? I think it was after the game, they asked him about how he was feeling about his points up to this stage of the tournament. Doesn't care. He's here to help them win a championship. Go get him, bud.
And they haven't lost yet.
No, they look unstoppable.
Seems
No,
like it's going to be a collision
insane.
course between them and the United States in the gold medal game. That's what it seems like.
That'll be interesting because they are both offensive juggernauts. U.S. today, they made it. No pun intended, fully pun intended. Swiss cheese out of the Swiss. I mean, they skated circles around them. There are some beauty goals. The puck movement is just unreal for a U20 team to see the way that they are able to get pucks out of tight spaces and hit a guy in stride to then go straight net front and score a goal. It's just incredible.
Yeah, that Ryan Leonard kid is phenomenal.
Yeah. He also got hit right in the nose with a puck today.
Dude,
Yeah.
He got hit in the face like 3 times. Then he got up and buried someone in the corner and then scored, 2 goals? Should have probably had the hat trick. That kid's phenomenal to watch. You know, for as much as people say that hockey's getting softer, not when there's players like that on the ice.
Well, tonight what we're going to talk about is a team that is getting a little more in the groove as of late, and it's ended the year on a high note, and it's starting the year on what I would still consider a high note. One of the goals I'm going to call ref problems because they didn't call blatant interference on Mott. But the Detroit Red Wings, like I said off the top, are in the Todd McLellan era now. I'm not going to count that first game against the Toronto Maple Leafs because he was in town for like 3 hours before they hit the ice, and you don't change anything. You take stock of what you have during that game. You sit on the bench and you view the dumpster fire that was the Detroit Red Wings and what you need to fix. And then you go into a game versus a team who's been really good, even without Ovi before he was out. Now he was back this game, but they go in and they play the Washington Capitals and they come out with a 4-2 win. Your goal scorers are 2 for Alex DeBrincat, 1 for Patrick Kane, 1 for Lucas Raymond. Your assists go to Kane, Raymond, Sherratt, Kopp, Gustafsson, Larkin, Seider, and Veleno. Top line Joe Veleno right now. In that game, your top performers were Alex DeBrincat, Patrick Kane, Lucas Raymond, Andrew Kopp, Dylan Larkin, Ben Sherratt, Moritz Seider. And it was just a game where you looked at it and you go, this feels different. This is the game that feels different. They came out with energy. They played complete hockey. They battled hard. And it was a game where you looked at it, you go, this is what they should have been doing since puck drop on night 1, is playing this kind of game every time because it was a lot more loose. McLellan had said that he came in, he looked and it looked very mechanical. And he said, you can't be mechanical because that's when you make mistakes. You need to have fluidity to your game. You need to play a little looser. And it looked a little looser. It let your offense provide more offense. It kickstarted Patrick Kane again, which is what I think is like, that's what Patrick Kane should look like while he's playing, is what he's looked like these past 2 games. And again, it's a strong start, and it was a big first win for this team for McLellan.
No, it's exactly what they needed. I mean, you came out, we saw the Toronto game. You could argue they did play with a bit more pep. But as Mick likes to allude to more often than not, they did not have any puck luck. Toronto got some great bounces. Detroit was getting none. And really, up until the third period, you're like, oh, God, here we go again. But they didn't really butt off the gas, they being Detroit. And that's with an Austin Matthews Toronto Maple Leafs team. But then you could look at this Capitals game from the get-go. It's a team that we had seen plenty of last season. And what I mean by that is from the start, they were full bore. Let's go play fucking hockey, for lack of better words. And they took it to the Capitals. But what I've appreciated the most to this point over the last couple of games, it seems like they've completely revamped the forecheck. They're less worried about making sure to try to contain and work on just be defensively focused. Now they're actually attacking the puck carrier again. We saw that a lot last season when they were actually aggressive and just going out there to play for a lot for basically what it seemed like they were successful. Now that is carried over to these last couple of games, a little bit stagnant. I think back on the road here with Columbus, but they really looked good against a hot Washington team. Sure, the Capitals were on the second of a back to back, but you take what you can. Ovi got a goal. I'm happy about that because I love watching him score, and usually not when it's against us, but when we win and he scores, I'll take it all day. And as a team, defensively, they just seem a bit more confident, and that's exactly what you want to see. And Sider is an absolute stud. But so far through the 2.5 games, as we're watching this third one, you have to appreciate the impact that McLellan has brought. And hopefully this will maintain through what he's calling essentially the honeymoon phase.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's been exactly what we've wanted and what the Wings have needed for a while. Swift kick in the ass for a team that I think was kind of coddled under Derek Lalonde. But they looked good in that Washington game. You could just tell that from the jump, and this has been the theme with McLellan. This team has looked ready and prepared to play every single night from the jump, from the opening face-off. They've looked like they're prepared. They look like anything can be thrown at them, and they'll be able to handle it. I love what I've seen so far. How has he gotten Joe Veleno going? He's unlocked like this other world version of Joe Veleno, and it's beautiful to see. He's flying out there.
Well, he put him on the top line. That's what he did, and I'm almost certain that Joe Veleno's on the top line to show off Joe Veleno to other teams to try and free up a roster spot and make a trade. But I think that's besides the point. But no, Joe Veleno actually had a pretty decent misstep today in the Columbus game. It was really late getting back on that backdoor goal. So I'll fault him for that one. But you're right, Joe Veleno. And Joe Veleno's previously shown creativity. He's shown the ability to have some offensive instinct to him, and that's why he was picked where he was picked. But he puts Joe Veleno on the top line. He puts Kopp back centering the second, and with DeBrincat and Patrick Kane. Marco Casper's currently on the bottom, and he'll get his time. But the thing that I see a lot right now, and especially in, like you said, the Toronto game, the Washington game, is they're battling. They're not taking shifts off. They're starting on time. And you could see it starting in the practices. McLellan's running basic drills, and he's running chaos, and he's running just trying to make it fun. They did a super small ice drill the other day just to try and keep things fun and keep things fresh and do one-on-one battles. And people were raising the question, well, if he's doing this stuff, what the hell was Lalonde doing in practice? Like, what was going on? And they said they had their longest practice the other day, which was approaching an hour. And if 1 hour is your longest practice, then again, you're not practicing the fundamentals. You're not practicing the things that keep your team in the game, that keep them engaged. So go ahead.
I mean, I'm trying not to get too, as AI stated, we're talking about practice, but at the same time, you can see how things are being impacted from the practice, because we know that it's where there's going to be a little bit more influence on it because new coach, everyone's trying to see what he's going to do and how it's going to be different. But obviously, to like what you were saying, how monotonous was it before? Like, was it just bang your head off the wall every day that they are out there and just the same shit, not changing things up to keep guys fresh and wanting to actually get involved? Because that's the feedback you're sort of seeing out of the practices right now. So it I don't want to say it's a fault of Malone, but maybe it obviously can be attributed to that because that was maybe just what they had in Tampa. I don't really know. We don't know if that was how things were previous, like say going to the last season or the year before that, how things maybe just it truly did get stagnant, kind of like we talked about last week. Iserman tried to walk it back a bit when it came to maybe the message got lost, but even the fact that the highlight of conversations from the beat writers in particular has been about what they've been doing differently in practice and how that seemingly is translating to how they've been performing on the ice.
Yeah, the other thing too is like their breakout has been phenomenal. They've been in and out of their zone right very quick. I know we talked about that before with Lalone. You know, they were so off the glass and out, and you know D to D, and just being super, you know, limited on the breakout. And now it's been phenomenal. They're spending way less time in their own zone, and that's given them the opportunity to play offense. I know me and Greg talked about this when you were gone, Ryan. Like they weren't ever given the opportunity to play offense because they were in their own zone for so long.
Yeah, that was a thing. I think they asked Mo. It was either they asked Mo or Sherrod about it, and they said like the point now is to like as soon as you're in the D zone and the puck is on your stick, it's to get it out. Don't play cute. Don't try to mess around with it. Don't do pass it to 18 different people. Get it out of the zone. Get it past that line, out of the zone. And like you said, we've seen that these past few games. Even tonight in Columbus, there's a whole segment of maybe 4 minutes where it was just they get it on the stick, out of the zone, move it down. Like it doesn't allow the other team to set up. And that's what they were struggling with, was that the other team could get in, they'd set up, and they'd be in the Red Wings zone for 3 minutes or a minute and a half of like constant possession. And then they'd eventually score because your defense can't handle that. And that's another thing that McLellan has switched up is he's taken Simon Edvinsson and moved him to that second pair. Once you saw that Simon Edvinsson had top pair potential and that Petrie and Sherratt did not make a complete second pair, it should have instantly been that, okay, well, then we move our other stud defenseman down to the second. We let Mo, who you said, Ryan, has been an absolute horse. Mo has had some amazing play, and McLellan's been asked several times about Seider and just says, like, the dude's a horse, but he keeps saying he does a lot of really good stuff and he's very good, but he has another level to unlock to him, which is absolutely terrifying to think about. But it looks like Sherratt's back up with Mo playing the Ben Sherratt game he played last season, which was good. And that Petrie is with Edvinsson, and Edvinsson is defensive enough to make up for Petrie's mistakes, which gives them two solid pairs, which is what you really needed. And then makes the breakout even better, gives the forwards more time in the offensive zone to do what they're supposed to do. So that was a really quick, I think, easy fix that has shown extremely positive results so far.
I got one other thing. I think Jonatan Berggren has looked phenomenal too. And, you know,
I have the quote.
Yeah, well, I want to get to something on the defense before we get to Berggren.
Oh, he scored power play goal 4-3.
And you are ahead of me. There it is. Goal. Is that Larkin?
I'm
I don't know. Hold on. They're hugging.
Larkin.
Yeah, it's Dylan.
Larkin.
But no, on the defensive side of things, though, I think that's where, and you go to the Discord chat to confirm this, we've all noticed how much more confident the guys are playing. And Greg, I like your point, and we've talked about this even going back to last year, is when this team plays fast, they are hard to beat. And now that is what they've essentially brought to the back end again. But it's controlled and not just utter chaos, where more often than not, up to this point in the season, we see the defensemen, yeah, they're getting rid of the puck quick, but now they're trying to find someone rather than just shooting it around the boards and praying that it gets out of the zone or finds a Red Wing stick. That I think has been extremely key, but they've also been sound along the blue line. And while they're not as necessarily aggressive pushing into the play, they're making seams and making things happen from the point. They're shooting. It seems like they're, to me, it feels like they're shooting the puck more, but they're also hitting the right seams and not trying to overly force things. And we saw the forcing a lot across the roster. But Tyler, you're going to touch on Burgers.
Yes. So I know I don't want to steal your thunder, Greg. So, but I know they asked McLellan about Berggren in particular and some of the younger guys. And he said, I'm giving them the opportunity to play free. But free doesn't mean stupid. And so if you're going to make mistakes, you're going to sit. But if you're going to, play free, meaning let's take a chance if we have the opportunity.
Use your instincts.
Use your instincts. You play, for lack of a better fucking term, play fucking hockey, right?
Need that on the t-shirt, by the way. That is something.
That's the quote of the week.
Get out there.
The quote of the week is Todd McLellan in practice telling the guys, just play fucking hockey. You've been doing it your whole lives.
If the Wings make the playoffs, the grit hat that Dan Campbell wears the Wings need to have one that says play fucking hockey.
Put it on this red one. You don't need the playoff in hockey on the hat. I wouldn't be against it, but bring the grit to the red. Let's see that one.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that idea. And they're playing like that, by the way. They're playing like a different hockey team. Even my friend Ryan, well, you met Ryan.
Boston Ryan.
Met Ryan.
Yeah.
Right. We were watching the Washington game, and he's like, where did this team come from? They're way faster. They're tougher to play against. It's just like coaching makes such a difference in the NHL, and I feel like a lot of people don't see that.
Yeah. Well, so what we'll end hold on, Ryan. What we'll end the first half with before we go to commercial, though, is a quote from Jonatan Berggren. So Jonatan Berggren, I don't know who was interviewing him, but his quote is, I feel like last game, and I believe he's talking about the Penguins game, which we'll talk about on the other side of the break. I feel like last game, it was more like attack, Berggren said. I'm best when I'm like attacking the net. And when I have the puck, I just think like offense, like attack. So I feel like that was a big difference last game. Berggren, 5 goals, 9 points in 35 games, has untapped offensive potential, and this team needs more scoring. And that is what you need from Jonatan Berggren, and you need to let him do it. And you can't force him into a box of a kind of game that he doesn't play. And you saw that, and he was rewarded during the Penguins game with a goal, which we will talk about on the other side of the break. So we're going to take a quick break, a couple messages from our sponsors. When we come back, like I said, we'll talk Penn's game and a little bit more about what McLellan is bringing and how this team is kind of different from the Derek Lalonde era. So give us 1 second, and we'll be right back. It's the most wonderful time of the year for getting in on all the hoops, football, and hockey action at DraftKings Sportsbook. In the season of giving, we're being gifted college football and basketball, pro football and basketball, and pro hockey too, almost 24/7. And here's a gift for all new customers. Bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Happy holidays from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
From the chill of the arena to skates on ice and people hitting the boards, an NHL game is a sports experience like none other. And when you are looking for tickets, your pick should be Game Time. Game Time is the only app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. And see the great seats with Game Time picks and see the view from your seat on your phone before you buy your tickets. All-in pricing shows you your total cost up front, and you can buy tickets in seconds with just a couple taps. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less somewhere else, Game Time will credit you 110% off the difference. With event cancellation policies that automatically refund your tickets and 24-hour returns guaranteed, you are protected with the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. And we're back, and off the top, since this was just a request in the Discord channel.
Oh, God.
Fire the Cannon asks us to talk about the Dylan Cousins rumor, and I'm going to say a couple things about it. Would it be cool? Yes. Will people be angry at what you will have to give up to acquire a player like Dylan Cousins? Also, yes, because it's going to cost you one of Marco Kasper or Nate Danielson, and it's going to cost you a high pick. or they're going to ask you for someone like Axel Sandin Palika and a pick, and that's a non-starter. Now, the Casper Danielson thing and a pick, I might be okay with, but because you're
You said
replacing a
Casper
center,
or Danielson, right?
yeah, one or the other, and I would rather Marco Casper.
Yes, thank you.
Just further, Dylan Cousins is further along development. I think he can be a true 2C in this league. He's having a down year, but I think that if that's what you're looking at, I just think the ask is going to be too high. I don't think Yzerman's going to be comfortable with it, but Dylan Cousins is the age range you want to be targeting for players to improve this team. I think he was drafted right. What was Cousins drafted right after Moritz Seider? I think that was,
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so same age as Seider. It's right in that window. It's a player that could be on your team for a long time. He's signed to a long contract. He's signed to a decent contract.
$7.1 million in
decent contract. If he can provide like Dylan Larkin style play, like because he's a two-way center, if he can provide that kind of play and he bumps that offense back up, I know Buffalo blows this season. But if he can go back to like the season before, he's only a season removed from like a really good one. I have no problem giving up a protected pick and someone like Marco Casper for Dylan Cousins.
You'll likely need another roster player with that, however, because
Joe Veleno.
I mean, if it's Veleno, but that does work in the sense that if you're losing Casper and Veleno, now that speaks to them wanting to try to maybe, as rumors say, who just left the ice, Berggren. That's not good.
No,
yeah, he got
it wasn't. Hard. It was Petrie.
Oh, was it Petrie?
Okay, never mind.
Oh, okay. Well, still not good. But regardless, you look at the money that's likely involved, and Casper would work in the sense of age, but he may not necessarily replace what Cousins is going to provide. But you're providing a good defensive player. Joe Veleno makes up for the money factor. Now you're in the potential reality of having Nate Danielson on this roster once that trade's done. But is that this ideal scenario? I think it can be. Because right now, the way Detroit's lines are structured, he is going to play with a good veteran group. Whether it's third or fourth line, and that lets him grow. You could even put him on that second line, float him up and down, drop Cousins down to the third line. You've got JT Compher sitting on that fourth line, third line, or anywhere else in the lineup, really, you can put him. So they still, even by losing Casper and Veleno, hypothetically, it would work out if that means you have Dylan Cousins, if that means Nate Danielson's called up.
Money-wise, though, I don't think that would work simply because Cousins has a high contract. You would have to move someone like an Andrew Kopp.
Probably.
Someone or a JT Compher. And now, so maybe you add someone like Compher. Maybe you do a Compher, Casper, and a pick, and that makes the money work. So I think that would be the snagging point for me, would be money. But I think that Buffalo also wants a really good defenseman. They're talking top four defenseman. The trade, what Buffalo fans think they can get is astounding to me. They said the only trade they would accept is Larkin and Seider for Power and Cousins. And that's just that
Power
blows my mind.
Over Mo Seider?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm saying I would take Power. I'm not saying I would give up Seider, but.
So, Tyler, what's your take on a Cousins trade? Real quick before we move to the next game.
I would be into it. It just, as anything, it kind of depends on what you'd have to give up. My guess is Buffalo is probably not going to trade him, so this is kind of a moot point. But if they do, Detroit would be one of those teams that, could be able to basically satisfy Buffalo's need in terms of what the return would be. Now, I don't know what Kevin Adams, like how his trades have been. So if you look back, I don't know if he's been fleeced, because I feel.
Did you say Kevin Allen?
Kevin Adams?
Oh, I thought you said Kevin Allen. I'm like, wrong guy.
No, Kevin Adams. Yeah, the general manager of the Sabres. I don't know if he's been fleeced before, because Yzerman is pretty good at that typically. So if that is the case, could you give something up a little less? Could you give up Casper, Compher, just to make the money work, and then a second round pick? No, probably not. It's probably a first round pick no matter what. But I don't know. I mean, again, it depends on what you'd have to give up, and then also you need to make the money work, but then at the same time, you need to make sure that Dylan Cousins is the guy from last year, not the guy from this year that has struggled mightily in Buffalo this year. So now the caveat is a lot of the players the Sabres have traded away over the last couple of years have turned into stars. Look at Sam Reinhart, who was a pretty good player in Buffalo, gets traded to Florida and becomes a Stanley Cup champion and almost has 30 goals already again this year. So I don't know. We'll see.
Turning trash into treasure, the Buffalo Sabres story about players that they turn away and trade off to other teams. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the Penguins game to end tonight and a little bit more on the McLellan era. The Penguins, the Red Wings again, come away with a 4-2 win. Your scores are Berggren, Compher, Kane, and Larkin. Your assists go to Berggren, Compher, 2 for Raymond, DeBrincat, Gustafsson, Tarasenko, and Veleno. The Larkin goal was just a gift, an empty net gift from Lucas Raymond, who knew Larks was having a downtime, having a hard time finding the back of the net, which he scored tonight. So it must have worked. It kickstarted him. Your top players, JT Compher, Jonatan Berggren, Dylan Larkin, Vladimir Tarasenko, and Eric Gustafsson. That is another player who was robbed during this game, was Eric Gustafsson, who it could have been his first Red Wings goal. Luckily, again, he got it tonight versus Columbus, but it was a JT Compher push in. And one thing that I mentioned during that whole sequence of events, and I've seen also in this game, is during the Derek Lalonde era, you never saw players in front of the net. You saw perimeter shots in, you saw point shots in, but you never saw scrums in front of the net. You never saw guys fighting to get a dirty goal. And for what I could think, it just he was afraid maybe that they would just not win that battle in front of the net and the puck would go the other way and have an odd man rush and score. Because one of the things Lalonde kept pointing out was we've mitigated odd man rushes. And he said that over and over again. And that's what happens sometimes when you don't fight in front of the net is you, mitigate odd man rushes, but then you don't score. You don't get those greasy goals. And we saw it again today with the Patrick Kane goal. It was a greasy, in front of the net, battling goal. And you saw that with JT Compher against the Pens. And in this league, you're going to need goals like that. Maybe not on a nightly basis, but maybe every 2 or 3 games, you're going to have to battle net front. And that is something else that I've absolutely loved about this team in the past couple games.
One guy in particular, on top of that, you mentioned Kane, but last game, I think I mentioned it, was in the Discord, that you have seen DeBrincat go toward the net. They're using him down low on power play, but I've been seeing him cross the net front more often, whether it's actually standing up and trying to post up in front, which most the guys can see right over top of his head, so it's kind of a moot point there. But he's been also, when the goalie's crouched down and trying to be in position, he's crossing his face, and we saw it lead to a goal the other night. It's paid off in terms of helping create that traffic. It's leading to goals for him. But it helps speak to the fact that some of these guys that we thought should be doing these things already, they've just been reminded, hey, go play fucking hockey. And that's what they're doing. And they seem to be enjoying themselves in the process.
I think the effort level, and just I have the game on, right next to me. The effort level of them winning board battles is astoundingly different compared to what it was. It's like you took a team with a lot of good players, you took one thing out of the equation, which is the coach, and all of a sudden the team is just different. They play a different brand of hockey. I wish
it's like they replaced the batteries, Tyler. Like they took the old batteries out and put new ones in.
Honestly, that's what it is. And I don't know. Again, I didn't watch the Pittsburgh game in its entirety just because it was New Year's Eve and we had the Canada-USA game on and stuff. But that, I feel like their forecheck has been better too. Just I guess overall effort level has been great, which obviously Todd McLellan teams always had good effort level. You think back to those San Jose teams that beat us in the playoffs. Those teams never stop. Their motors never stop on defense, on offense. I like what McLellan said about D-zone coverage, how they haven't really got into that just yet. They're still kind of doing what they were doing previously. So I'm interested to see what happens when he gets his hands on that, him and Trent Yanni.
One of the things, they just showed it again, that has been night and day, and we've kind of talked about this before since he came on, the communication from McLellan to the players has been seemingly night and day with what we saw with Lalonde. Yeah, you mostly saw Tanguay and Bugner kind of talking to the players, not necessarily alone. Maybe it was happening. It just didn't, the camera wasn't picking it up as much. But they just had McLellan with I couldn't tell if it was a notebook or something. I caught it out of the corner of my eye, and that's what made me think about it. He has been nonstop in these guys' ears. I get it. He's new. He's trying to learn things. He's trying to get across what it is that he's seeing out there to his team. But the communication factor from what we've seen during the game to what we've seen in press conferences, you can tell, obviously, it's a coach that's been around for a very long time as a head coach in the NHL compared to Derek coming in as his first gig. I can't fault him for that, but it's been refreshing from our perspective to see how much more involved and how honest he is about what the team is doing.
I'll say one thing just quickly. I think that you can just tell. I mean, knowing hockey and being around it and watching it as much as I have, and I'm sure as much as you guys have as well, you can just tell from the press conference that Todd McLellan is a no bullshit business kind of coach. And honestly, he's probably a prick to play for.
No, I don't think he is, because
No, I
in
think
some
he
of his
is.
things, he said sometimes players need a pat on the back and sometimes they need to be corrected. But what the big difference that I've seen, it's not just that he seems like he's a pain in the ass to play for. His answers are direct. He goes into detail. He doesn't do the mushy, well, we played really good tonight, but sometimes the results don't go your way. He breaks down what happened. He breaks down what players do really good, what they might not do really good, when he talked about Justin Holl and how, oh, Justin Holl's not going to go out there and provide you a ton of offense, but it's about knowing what you're good at and playing what you're good at and not trying to be something you are not. And I think that I think is one of the qualities so far that I like the most about him, is that he's not afraid to like give actual detailed answers about things and answer questions that are asked without trying to skirt around it, without trying to soften it, without trying to say, we gave it 100% effort, we just didn't win tonight. And I don't think I wouldn't say that he is like an asshole to play for, but he does feel like a dude that will 100% stick up for his guys and will not let any bullshit happen with them.
I think he's very much like Steve Yzerman. I think that I don't mean he's a prick in a bad way. I mean he's a prick meaning that things need to go this certain way. But yeah, to your guys' point, he's good at communicating and all that stuff. But I think he's very similar to Steve Yzerman. Steve Yzerman is fair. Steve Yzerman is direct to the point, but at the same time, Steve Yzerman doesn't take bullshit, and that's what I meant by McLellan. But it feels like a professional operation now, doesn't it? It doesn't feel Mickey Mouse kind of like it did previously. Didn't seem like we're dancing around the questions that are answered. It seems like he's direct and to the point. That should be goalie interference, fellas.
No, it won't. Not a chance.
That should be Justin Holl should have cleared Van Riemsdyk out of the net front.
No, it's been a breath of fresh air, and I think that we were all very frustrated for a long time. We touched on this quite a bit. They weren't playing to their potential. Yzerman said as much. McLellan said, as from the outside looking in, this team was fragile, and I think that was a very easy, fair assessment to make because that's how they were playing half the time. It's been nice to see that they're not getting destroyed in the shot category, and they're actually taking it against teams now and putting it to them. They've had, since McLellan took over against Toronto, they outshot Toronto. They had the same shots as the Caps. They had the same amount of shots as the Penguins, and currently they're outshooting the Blue Jackets. I'll take that all day because most of the season they were getting outshot and outshot badly. So
I would agree with that. I would say that it's really nice to see the team, and some will say it's new coach bump. Some will say it's just a change sparked them. And that's kind of what we had asked for all along. But it does really seem like, and we had said that this roster is better than the results have been on the ice. And we're seeing kind of now the results that we thought we would get from the beginning of the season with the roster that was put out there. So I think that it's not just the new coach bump, that McLellan knows what he's doing. He's coached damn near 1,000 games now in the league. And you just need to get a guy in here that can apparently, based on practices, instill better fundamentals in the group. Let the guys play to their strength. and then open it a little bit up more defensive or offensively, and not maybe screw with line pairings as much. And that's how you're going to win. But I think that's going to do it for us tonight. We're approaching time. Tyler, I want to I'll start with you. Get your final thoughts before we sign off.
Yeah, final thoughts are we have a stretch coming up here. Obviously, they're playing Columbus right now at Winnipeg, and then you got Ottawa team who's pretty hot right now, and then Chicago and Seattle who's pretty hot too right now, and then San Jose. So you got to get some points. You got to find a way to just keep the train moving here. They like we touched on. They're playing a better version of hockey, and hopefully that will bode well for some of the tough games that they have coming up. Especially Winnipeg on Saturday afternoon. That's going to be a really tough one. So we'll see where it goes. We'll see where this one goes. To your point, Ryan, that was an absolutely terrible challenge. You cannot do that with under 2 minutes to go in the game there. But anyways, those are my final thoughts. You can follow me on Twitter at SteelDog91.
We'll see what Trent Yawney is made of. Ryan.
Go Wings. Already Ryan 33.
Nice. You can follow me online at Bringing the Wing. You follow Grindline Podcast online at Grindline Pod on all social media channels now. You can follow us on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications. You'll get notified whenever an episode goes live. I'd like to thank the Hockey Podcast Network for hosting us and spreading our podcast around. Vintage Detroit, which is the only place you should get your Detroit jerseys from and worked on. They are absolutely fantastic. We're still waiting for our new shirt designs to go live, but they were absolutely insane through the holidays, so that should be happening relatively soon. And yeah, patreon.com/Grindline Podcast with really super cheap options. If you love our show, we would love for you to go on to Patreon. It just helps us keep the lights on, helps get our subscriptions in. And there is Jonatan Berggren with what could be the game-winning goal. So we 5-4 against the Columbus Blue Jackets right now with 35 seconds left. That is going to do it for us tonight. So for Ryan and Tyler, I am Greg. You stay classy, Hockey Town.